But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, everyone, welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is episode 143. Our hosts for today are Sean, Satoshi Sean, everyone's friend, everyone's best friend. Lisa from the Mighty Lair. Greg from Rivet.
What's up?
How's it going, Greg? He showed up right at the last minute. It's awesome. Yeah, and I
was sitting here, guys. You don't understand. I'm running a 2013 MacBook Pro that was luckily spec'd out when I got it.
Wow.
I bought it from my work right before I left to go be an entrepreneur, and that was like 2016, right?
They do last a long time.
So since then, this thing has turned into that beat up old pickup truck that will not fail me, but it's starting to show its age. Yep. So I was sitting here literally like, okay, I've got to reopen Brave. Okay, I've got to reopen Brave. Okay, now I have to reauthorize Calendar. It was ridiculous.
Man,
kind of starting to feel the way that the Office Space dude felt about that copy printer thing. About this, even though I still have a lot of love for it, it's burning through my patience.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here, and I'm Joe, founder architect Dragon Chain. Quick update on the Roundtable Layer ownership tokens distribution from last week's episode. Every host from last week will get 222 lot. Every topic contributor will receive 55 lot. Last week's theme was nominated by Dayrox, who will receive 55 lot. These NFTs come with free edits and, most importantly, governance votes, so you can adjust the show to your will. And let's see here. We do have a Roundtable DAO event up. The vote is not up yet. So let's see here. I think I have it up here. So essentially, for March theme suggestions, we'll go do a quick preview. So these will be entered into a governance issue for a vote sometime soon. Let's see here. They have to be posted by the 20th, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UTC. And so the ones we have, I am blockchain app store to challenge app store monopolies. Is it possible, for a blockchain app store to break the monopoly of Google Play and Apple's app store? That's a good one. Dayrox, know your customer, and anti-money laundering. It's Greg's favorite subject, right?
Oh man,
yeah. The thing
that
for some reason people think works to make us more secure because it impacts the banks with a lot of costs. Even though if you check what happens is it gets more expensive as the effectiveness stays near zero.
Yeah, it doesn't really change anything. Still easy for the bad people.
Regulation is good because fill in the blank, and it's sort of like, what is that?
And it weaponizes against we the people. It really does nothing to stop money laundering.
It's people who don't like to admit that what they're doing all the time is Schadenfreude, like having the screen keep falling off of their Schadenfreude.
Yep. Well, and it is, by the way, there are several actual usable things that blockchain can do to improve that and to make it, an actual real fraud prevention.
The other thing here too is like, would we really want to do that, or we just want to admit that in fact what we're doing here is creating a system that allows an Etienne Laboitier style tax revolt is effective, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
Well,
to stop
I mean,
money. I want to stop the only money laundering that they ever catch with the system. I want to enable people to decide they don't want to pay for bombs anymore.
yes. Well, there you go. There you go. So next, I am for I am. What's the next problem that blockchain can solve? Plenty of opportunity there for good stuff. Also, I am for I am. Can AI and blockchain be used to improve each other? That's a good one. It'd be interesting, right? I am for I am. What's up with Solana? Why has Solana blockchain popularity and utility grown recently? Grown recently, at least utility, occasionally not. Let's see here. I am for I am. Can blockchain save jobs lost to AI? And I am for I am. He's batting high on this. Blockchain's used for political polling and other surveys. So a good set of suggestions. So get in there and vote them up or down. Figure out which ones you would like to see something more about, and
There's such a wild card in there that I'm about to throw in. So
yeah. So okay. So that's all that stuff. And this week, the theme of the week was nominated by Dayrox, and it is blockchains. Let's see here. Am I in the right one? Yeah. Blockchain's role in justice system reform. So, what do you guys think? Do we need to say anything before I refresh this and we get right to the questions?
Nothing.
All right.
Anyone else just hears Seinfeld's voice when you're reading that? What's the deal with Solana?
Yes. We can't do that one. Yeah,
you prove yourself to be born sometime before 1985 if you recognize that, and you're also on a stream talking about crypto.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay, so first question from Dayrox. Question: in Europe, positions in the justice system are very often, if not mostly, filled by connections. For example, children of advocates become advocates, children of judges become judges, etc. Even if they don't get into university, there are ways and connections that enable them to study. Competition in the small job market is huge, and not the best get jobs, but those who are positioned. On top of that, the justice system is corrupt and dependent on the state. Do you see anything similar in the U.S.? I have a lot of things to say about this. Is there a chance that the justice system will start working as it is written in its principles?
Yeah. It's working exactly as it's written in its principles.
You want to start? Okay, Greg is going to start.
Absolutely working as intended. The bugs that you are encountering are in fact not bugs to the people who implemented it. It is designed to sustain immense hypocrisy while doing whatever it wants. It's about taking an end result sought, fitting in the facts into what they will call due process, right? And executing a thing that they call justice, whereby the process is punishment. It doesn't matter if you get done with a case being tried and the outcome is in your favor, or if you go to prison. It's icing on the cake if they can send you to prison for them, because they've already had the cake by dragging you through the torture of having to prove yourself innocent. This stands in the face of the standard they set up of innocent until proven guilty, which has always been nothing but a political buzzword that is discarded very readily because people are always ready to lynch their fellow man when you put on a jury and feed a bunch of law and order every week. And I mean, in a neutral system, maybe, right, we could actually set it up so that impartial jurors can judge you and also hear a jury instruct about nullification every time, where they can make a stupid law that they don't like vanish because they refuse to convict anybody on it, even if they did it, right? But until we have nullification instruction, I think that'd be the only way you can fix it.
All right.
Well, and I would even say that even when it's a situation where it is like a person trying to seek justice from another person, even in that case, there's the only winner typically is the attorneys or the system, the attorneys and the judges who get theirs, and they drag it out and make sure that whatever properties that were to be
It's about
returned
fee
to the
generation
original
and administrating the
person,
payout to you.
that had the loss, get eaten up through the process. So that's very frustrating. And that with blockchain, if the contract was there in an escrow, then a lot of their jobs would just be gone because it would just be the truth,
Right. Imagine if prenuptial agreements self-executed. Why would you even need divorce settlements anymore?
Right.
Yep. It should be part of the contract on the way in. It should be mandated by the state. You guys have to decide how stuff's going to get split now before.
And really, do we want to keep trying to have the state be the exclusive monopolist of authorized violence? We have tried so many variations of that, and it always results in tyranny. I feel like maybe it's time to throw in the towel and have a rule where as soon as you become a government, violence against anyone is time to commit seppuku. It should be a stain on your family's honor that allows you to never serve again if you commit violence, because we've tried all sorts of configurations of the violence principle. Maybe it's time to try the libertarian alternative, because justice doesn't come no matter how good Schadenfreude feels.
Yeah. So
freedom is not given, liberty's given, freedom's taken.
Sean,
time to do it.
Very interesting question.
People could get over the idea of the need to hurt somebody to feel good after something bad happened, even if it meant that we could have efficient systems of justice, because I feel like you'd get more accurate justice out of pistolas at dawn than you would out of a court system at this point.
Yeah,
at least 50% of the time, the good guy's aim would be better and his draw would be quicker. And 50% of the time does not even equate to what the court system does in terms of injustice on a regular basis.
I'm very prejudiced.
I left law because of this. I really dislike the system because working diligently at it causes it to turn out injustice at a higher percentage.
I'm very prejudiced about this. I think like most Americans are. we don't
I can hear you guys.
See a lot of the negatives that are in front of us. But when I look at the systems over in Europe, it's a class of people.
Sorry, my sound's out.
Immediately, I'm balking at that. But our system is messed up here. It is very messed up. Y'all have just touched on some of the stuff. But we literally had at the highest level this past week, the Department of Justice
I'm not try loading.
Said that the president is committed a crime. We believe he committed a crime. We're 100% sure we want to try this. A high crime,
treason.
But he's an old man, doddering. We don't think we could win, so let it go. That's not the justice system. That's terrible. It's I think also the first step down a slippery slope. I mean, you wouldn't try Jeffrey Dahmer. It's he's such a nice guy and he's a handsome guy, and I don't know.
He has good hair, so
dude, it's not your job. It's your job if you think a crime was committed to arrest a person and to try and convict them. That's it. If you're worried about, Joe always brings it up. Once you're in a government job, your idea is to keep your government job or move up. And if you're just worried about, winning a case or making your department look good, that's not the function of the justice system. There's no justice there. And I think that the justice system and the court system, the legal system, is one of the best things about our country now. I think if you want to look at all of their branches, they're even worse. So just to tell you how what I think about it, the system in general. But yeah, I don't know if that's worse over there with the class system, and because we don't have a class system here. Most judges, they run for office. It's more by what the people want. There's a lot of judges on higher courts that are appointed, so that brings into like cronyism. But you're not born into stuff. And also, if somebody puts you in a position, they are putting their own name on the line and doing that. So it's a little bit better, but it does suck.
Yeah. It used to be, you guys, I mean, at least when I grew up, and I imagine the same for you, we were always told, hey, it's different over here. Europe, it's aristocratic. It's always going to be, it's going to be where you have, the old families running things. And over here, you have a chance to, to actually take part, to contribute, to do things. And that was supposed to apply to the public sector, for inside of government, local, state, national. But it was also supposed to apply to the commercial world, right? Private enterprise. Doesn't matter where you came from. You can start a company. You can build something real, right? You can become rich, right? That was supposed to be it. And some of it is there, but largely, I think a lot of, I've only been here for 50 years, right? I don't know how long, if I'm just seeing some of the facade peel away, or if it's always been like this. But I think a lot of that's lies. There's some of it that's there for sure. But I know for certain that a lot of what I had assumed or had been told forever was the way of America isn't really the way of America. That there's a lot of stuff that's just not, and that applies definitely to government. It's obvious to anyone watching that if you are the wrong religion, the wrong skin color, have the wrong last name, the wrong blood, you're never gonna be able to run for Congress or Senate. You're never going to be able to get funding for your company. You're never going to, and if something goes wrong, if you make a mistake, if if you're not one of those people in one of those groups, you're definitely going to get punished. Whereas, we can see how many people, either because they're rich, because they're tied to, they have a senator for a dad, or something similar, or because they're a celebrity, do not face justice. And I would even say it's an odd thing, because what they tend to do is they tend to pull people. It's almost like they make up for the injustice of the celebrity class, or let's say the political class, by pouncing heavily on the other classes with real justice. It was way beyond. You look at the people who have been, we have political prisoners in this country right now. It's like you bring me back to the 80s, that would blow my mind. It was like, no way. That's the Soviet Union.
Even 90s, yeah.
Prisoners.
I can't remember what the incarceration rate of like women in Oklahoma for marijuana, but it was something insane. And I don't even know that they've corrected it yet. But it was something like, so many of them would like take the heat so that their baby daddy didn't get in trouble for it or whatever. And it was just this,
that could be a whole other show, just on the.
That's just one layer of the injustice, right? Like, you get out of that.
A lot of people don't know that it's corporate, that they are literally the judges.
That's a big thing. We're the only country in the world that has a for-profit prison system.
For-profit
prison. But the for-profit prison system actually doesn't.
We have the biggest prison system in the world. Can you
the for-profit prison system?
Part of it. It's weird. Part of the problem. But
for-profit prison system is a lot like CBDC, right? The problem is in the design of the prison system, not in the efficiency of the imprisoner.
I don't care about the efficiency of the prisoner. I care about the fact that the public sector is sending people to this for-profit, and somebody's getting a kickback for it.
But we have two problems. Two core problems. We have too many laws that do stuff that
ecosystem
we don't want it to do.
Prison system. There's an entire and these
prisons
people
are
are
not
literally
rewarded or punished
the
based on whether or
worst
not
off
they
people in the
actually
country.
cure people.
In our country, they're the worst off. I don't care how poor you are, how if you're homeless, you have some freedom. These are the worst off people in the world. And how do you treat them? They have to pay $3 for a pack of ramen when other people have to pay 30 cents. That they are abused and used for profit. You can't get
Blockchain
around
can
that.
destroy the systems that govern. If we
It
use them
can.
that way.
Blockchain can fix this problem, but there's a question.
Blockchain can
whether
help
it's
fix the problem by
realistic.
first burning it all down in a way that they can't stop us from doing.
Yeah, but guess what? With the entire world, crypto world posting laser eyes and number go up bullshit, it's not going to happen. And that's why I think what he's saying is
Well,
like,
no,
in the existing, the way we're doing things right now, it's like, oh, let's get it plugged into an ETF. Yeah, that's going to change the world. So
people aren't ready to resist appropriately yet. Like the reason ultimately that blockchain can change the world is because enough people can exercise a refusal to bow to a threat of imprisonment, right? Because enough people on contempt of court for refusing to turn over their funds will ultimately run out of funds to pay its prison guards. And then you can walk free when they walk away because the people saying you have to imprison them can't afford to pay them because you've refused to turn over your funds.
With that, I do agree. Blockchain as a tool, like
stop feeding your captors and you're good. But that's what they fear.
Next question.
They can't force a transaction.
Next question from Day Rocks. How would blockchain help revolutionize and improve the justice system? So really good segue into that. Let's start with Sean this time.
No, sorry, someone else. I'm thinking about it.
Okay, Lisa.
I got one.
So I think smart contracts, like we were talking about earlier, smart contracts using escrow and smart contracts to facilitate those, Reggie's patents. He just had another patent approved. We're going to be doing an interview. We were supposed to do it yesterday with the IP attorney, but he had something come up. So we're going to be doing that Friday, and then it'll go out next week. So I'm super excited about that. So I think those kind of things, peer-to-peer transactions happening on the blockchain and using smart contracts is a great way to do that thing so that there is no, oh, well, you were supposed to follow the judge's orders or the court order or the whatever, and then it didn't happen. And now now you would get to drag you back to court to ask you to follow the judge's orders again or with a threat of whatever, you know what I mean? So,
yep.
That would.
I don't know, man. Me and Lisa on our show, she brought something up when we're doing the first half on her show, and we all have this problem, but Lisa really identifies it now. That whenever something is, we wanted it to happen, it's good for our side. We don't care that it's bad, and now this is one of those things, like. What you're saying is good in a lot of ways, that things are automatically executed and blah blah, but then what about
targeted killing is murder? Is that right?
What about killing someone is wrong, but what about that dad that shot the guy that raped his daughter? And that so I think there should be.
Right, like I said, Sean, it's ultimately like people hearing the facts and fitting the punishment they think is deserved into the law, right? If you think a murder is justified,
that's why I
the
think
jury lets them walk away if everybody would.
That's why I think automatic stuff isn't good. Like
we just call it impartial, which it's not.
Like zero tolerance kind of thing. It's just wrong. Look, so many people are.
The problem is there's no such thing as justice because justice is a euphemism for revenge. We need to become less. If we could get over it, we could get over the need for revenge and take all of our penalties in money instead of blood or time or equal amounts of cruelty, eyes for eyes. If humanity could force themselves to get over that, and instead just be
That's
what
not
I need
justice.
is economic remuneration that pays me back.
I
for
need
what was
economic
taken from me, and that's
remuneration
all I
when
can
they kill my
demand.
family. Nope.
Then
Sorry,
we can
No
move
way.
forward and focus
Nope.
instead on the future.
Yeah,
No way.
Like I
all
said,
There
the
was a
libertarians
reason
go to
for
hell with that.
Nuremberg. Nuremberg was justified, and
they're
there
weirdos
may
like
be
me who
time
could
for
walk
it
away
again.
from it.
I'm sorry, but Nuremberg was
like I said,
justified.
there's it's not an easy answer. Okay, I'll tell you.
Nuremberg was only possible though because too many
I think
people
last
believe
week or
the
the week
state can
before
provide justice.
about in Texas, if you write a bad check, you go to jail. Which people don't write a lot of checks anymore, but it used to be a big thing. And my ex used to write checks.
We should at least have to call it vengeance.
And I was just able to pay the county attorney a bunch of money, and there was no charges ever filed. But poor people went to jail right away. And one time, it was a lot. I didn't have the money right away, so I went to my boss, like, "Hey, give me the advance. Here's some money. I need like $1,000." And then I'm like, "My ex wrote these checks. I got to pay this because they only give you like 10 days to pay it, or else they file charges." And he's like, "She was pregnant." He's like, "Man, ain't nobody going to arrest that girl. She's pregnant." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's a good old boy, you know. There's not a jury in the world going to convict her. Hey, look at it. And I was like 22 or 23. I'm like, no, this is justice, this is law. And sure enough,
revenge feels good, and it's easy to mandate when you have a majority.
I opened the door, and I said, the cop's there. He's like, "Yeah, looking for this, this person
from it all bad things."
I don't say her name. I was like, "Well, okay." And then she came over, he just looked at her and went, "No." He's not going to arrest you. I'm here to arrest you for this bad check you wrote, but nah, I don't want to touch you. So you have a nice day. And he left.
In Oklahoma, they don't have debtor's prison, I was told. So they don't arrest people for that here. But you do go to jail if you owe the IRS. They do have
the IRS is actually hitting you with a crime that is not owing them.
My family
it is the act of willfully avoiding paying them that causes you to go to jail.
Thought it was crazy. In a lot of states, it's a civil matter, but here it's a theft.
I want to answer.
I cannot hear you guys when you guys talk over each other.
I know you guys. We need to start doing one at a time. Stop.
Yeah, it's so hard for me.
Say your part and stop because
I've got an important point to make.
I want to follow all your stuff. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Then I want to answer.
Because if we really want to make the justice system dispense justice, if we really want that, then we have to literally become better people. Like we have to actually be capable of not wanting revenge because we see that it causes toxic anger, right? You have to be not just anti violence, but anti mutually assured violence. We have to get over this idea that there's a such thing as just war.
But that's a circular argument because if we become better people, we don't need a justice system.
Well, no, it's not true. What we need to do is we need to accept that everything can end tragically, and that when somebody commits a bad act, that while it would feel good to brutalize them for it, to do so would be to perpetuate a cycle, and we should really just cast them out, make them leave, and take their take whatever remuneration.
Okay. How about just
but not exact vengeance.
Well, okay.
If we could get over that as a society, then we could change everything.
So you're asking the people who are victims to be better people and not seek vengeance.
I'm asking people to realize that vengeance has no utility, even though it feels good.
How about just saying, let's just ask all the rapists to not rape. Let's ask all of the. I'm not saying that we don't stop rape. I'm saying that we don't send them to prison and laugh when we hear about them getting raped for what they raped. Fucking hang them and it's done. You get a rapist and an admitted rapist.
You will end up with corruption in your lynching system that causes injustice, and we'll be back here having this discussion again once it turns into
not if you hang the corrupted people.
You can't keep the power limited to good uses. Create the power. We have to not have the power to commit violence using majority.
So we should just have anarchy. And
no, we shouldn't just have anarchy. We can't use democracy to dispense justice. It turns into Schadenfreude, vengeance, and corruption.
Can't use democracy for anything.
It grows out of control.
You use the bad word, Joe.
It grows out of control.
If we had anarchy, if we were all anarchists,
turns into ultimately we have somebody writing unjust laws so they can appropriate.
Make it short, guys.
If we had real anarchy and we were able to be true anarchists, we wouldn't need all that because we would have to be better people. the whole thing I think about what Greg is saying is that we could have anarchy where people don't infringe on other people's rights. There is no slavery.
Well,
but actual anarchy is different than chaos.
Yeah. What we have right now is at least the attempt at what Greg is saying. You look at Western Europe, they don't want
breaches of order, or vengeance for breaches of order. We do.
Let me talk, please.
Sorry,
if you want to do that, I don't see any difference from what is already going on right now. Somebody, depending upon who it is, of course, depending on what race they are, depending upon who they are, they could rape someone, they can murder someone, they can steal stuff, they can commit treason, and nothing happens to them. And it's like,
nothing doesn't happen.
Vengeance
to them.
Against.
They're cast
we
out.
Don't want vengeance.
They have to leave. They can't come back.
So I'll let you run the show. If you
doesn't feel good to let them walk away. But it fixes the problem of creating a corrupt violence system authorized.
Okay,
by
let's just be better
action.
people. Let's be better people. Joe Biden's
no,
son
let's not.
Go
let's
to prison.
Tolerate the bad and not stack bad upon it. It's just like throwing bad money after, or throwing good money after bad. Is what
tolerate the bad.
Tolerate the bad.
No, not tolerate the bad.
Better people. We're better people because we tolerate the bad.
Jesus Christ!
It out?
Are you guys? Do you guys really not see that we could solve the whole problem if we got rid of the violent apparatus altogether? And it's probably the only way it won't eventually corrupt itself and start coming after us.
I think that an armed society is a polite society, and I think that there is a place for rope.
I think
because people like vengeance. But we have to admit that it's vengeance, and we have to admit that what we're doing is we're
accountability is necessary.
Accountability is euphemism for vengeance.
Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Tell me I'm wrong.
If someone murders
What's
someone,
the difference between revenge and justice?
Good God, I can't get a word in edgewise. I'll just go to the next question. And by the way, blockchain can help revolutionize the justice system, because if you hanged all the people who are in this corrupt system now and started anew, you would have a chance. And yes, it might go wrong, but you would have a chance to put something in place that would at least be transparent, where you wouldn't have the arbitrary effect of a judge. And you would have to have. You don't want zero tolerance BS. You would have to have something that would have some ability for people to say, no, this is very much a different situation. This is obviously a kid. This is obviously something, whatever. But too often we have the opposite of that, and it's obviously unjust. And you obviously can't handle in our current system. And yes, Greg is correct. It is set up for what it is. It is set up to do what we see.
Right. The problem isn't that it does justice when it does things we like it when it begins, right? You give a majority power of violence. And
okay, first of all,
and before you know it, things that you don't like to have happen to other people.
First of all, dispense with any notion that I am. Dispense with any notion that I'm advocating for.
People go to prison and get tortured. It's the end.
Please dispense. God damn it! Dispense with any thought that I'm advocating for democracy, because democracy does not work.
Well, who should control the violence engine then?
The people.
That's democratized violence then. So we can vote for law changes that ultimately result in we don't like it when you do drugs. So
there are ways to do consensus. There are definitely ways to do consensus better than what we have right now, right? The consensus, you think the people actually control it? No, they don't. It's like we supposedly elect people that it's so many layers thick, and there's nothing to do with the judges, and really there's very, very little opportunity to fix having a corrupt person there, because treason is a joke. There is no such thing as treason right now. There is no such thing as law right now, if you ask me. Yeah. So anyway,
treason was always a political crime. The people who decided you committed treason were the people who won the insurrection or put it down.
The fact that we know someone is going to be anally raped and make a joke about it, and it's like an accepted thing.
Man, if people had to go tour prisons, they wouldn't feel that way.
You're like, hey, kid, you had some marijuana, 3 times. So now you're going to go to this place where you'll probably get beat up, anally raped, or have to align yourself with terrible, racists or gangs or something to survive. It's a different world, man. It's like sending someone to a different world because you made some bad choices and you did these. You had pot 3 times, but it's a 3 strikes you're out. You have to go. You're there for 90 days, 60 days.
Justice system is a joke. It's
messed up, and we know how bad it is. We know bad things are going to happen to that kid.
Yep.
But ship them off and send them there. We need to focus on.
What would be wrong with Exile?
Yeah, I'd be supportive of that as a punishment, or I'd be supportive of.
You can't live here anymore. Your right of exit has been,
but at the same time,
exercised.
It's the same, and it's been the whole island.
Where they go?
Not here. They can hide out with the raccoons and try to steal from our trash, but we'll shoot them if we see them.
That sounds like fucking.
That's not enforcement of justice. That is enforcement of defense.
Yeah, I mean, Exile is a reasonable,
and exiles can't have your trash.
Option, but so are islands. So it was frankly, I would love to see all of the traders in a pay-per-view to the death, right? Like, why not? It'd be, you imagine the amount of money that could be made to pay back what they've stolen from us. Anyway, okay. Next question.
I'm dreaming this show, aren't I? I'm asleep still. I didn't make the show. I'm not here. I'm still in bed.
I am. Next question. How can blockchain be used to lower the cost of the justice system? What do you guys think?
Get rid of those lawyers.
Transparency.
Yeah, get rid of the judges. Get rid of lawyers. Get rid of
escrow agencies. Go away immediately.
Yeah,
contracts mostly self-execute, so you don't really have those litigated. Like blockchain implies a massive reduction in the cost of that system.
The beauty
by using it for money.
The beauty would be that the facts of the case, whatever that case might be, would be transparent and would be recorded. You would know what happened, and therefore, you did this, therefore this, and yet you could still have the ability to appeal, and it could roll itself up. Like, what's the reason? Oh, this is something that wasn't accounted for. That and maybe you have a chance, but even then, you at least have all the facts in place. There's no issue, and it would be far less expensive because a lot of like what Greg. Well, I can't remember who mentioned who it was talking about the fact that these cases go on and on forever because they want to generate the fees, right? That happens everywhere. And, I know from Dragon Chain, that's one of the big reasons that the SEC has gone after all these crypto companies is to bleed them all, right? And both because they want to kill them, but also because they want their lawyer buddies to make the money so that they'll hire them when they leave the SEC and or whatever other regulatory org, right? That's what they do.
It's also
and
how
everybody knows it.
It's also how they choose to target
anybody who would objectively look at it. It's a bad system. So anyway, yes. Sorry, Lisa. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's also how they choose to target some of them. If you go back and look at, what companies were cherry picked, and then who they end up in court with, which will end up creating new laws or what would it be called, Greg? Would it be a statute or a like once the Coinbase thing goes down, precedents? Is that what it's called? Something like that. Then to look back on, but basically it creates like a new law or standard.
It would be radically more efficient, right? You would have to then think about what can you do in the cases where it's too efficient, right? Or where the outcome is, not.
I think there's a huge difference.
Okay, here's an interesting idea.
There's no difference between vengeance and justice. I think there is a very
big difference. Default punishment for
hold on, Greg.
Wait, Greg.
Between vengeance and justice. If you're a parent, you know this.
My opinion is the system.
You do not. I've had to hit my child, or spank him. I don't like to beat the crap out of him. Or one thing still to this fucking day, my son gives me shit and brings it up and tells everyone about it. He was really excited to see Star Wars Episode 1, and he did something.
Sorry.
but I didn't let him say, you're grounded. You can't go with us to go to the theater to see Star Wars Episode 1. I bought it the day it came out. He owned it. I bought him Darth Maul crap out the ass. But still, to this day, he brings it up. And he's very hurt, mad about it. And I didn't want to do it. I was a very permissive parent. But that's justice. It's something that you don't like, but it has to be done.
You just put the word righteous beneath vengeance in the tone of how you said justice.
No, because vengeance still.
What's the difference between righteous vengeance and justice? Somebody explain that one.
Justice is something that is done because it needs to be done. Vengeance is something that you want.
What's righteous vengeance, though, Sean? The difference between righteous vengeance and justice. How is justice not just a shortening of the concept into one word?
Because vengeance is something you want to do.
Okay.
Justice is something that has to be done. In most cases, you don't want to do it.
Well, if in most cases you don't want to do it, then how can you not call it injustice?
Because it's not injustice. Like, it has to be
What's
done.
Injustice then?
It has
What
to be
makes
done
it injustice if a majority of times you do justice, it's uncomfortable and you don't like it?
Just because something's uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to be done.
What you're talking about is rigid application of the law.
This is the reason the law doesn't work. Because
if you want to be healthy,
this reason I have a solution, and I think you guys might like it if you let me articulate it.
Okay, sure.
The default punishment for everything should be exile or earn your right back in by undergoing the price of your breach of contract with society. You can leave and do what you will and don't come back, or you can do this punishment and we'll redeem you and you can come back in. Would you like to say you're sorry and stay?
What's the punishment?
Punishment, then we can design the system as we will, because everybody can choose exile instead of what we want to do.
No, what's the earning back? What do you have to do to earn?
If they don't have the right of exit instead of being punished, then you can never have justice.
I think you have to fulfill the contract, right? And if you can't fulfill the contract, if you can't unkill someone, you have to leave and stay on.
That's why, I mean, murder is the ultimate sin.
To society, exile would be just as good.
The person you murdered can't forgive you.
Or if I'm a murderer, I can work out, get super buff.
As long as you have strong nerves.
I can train in a bunch of martial arts, get exiled, go kill the shit out of as many people as I want, and then just earn my way back in. Completely legal, completely great.
Yeah, no way.
I mean, telling them that if they're seen here again, they are basically fair game for anybody who wants to knock them off for trying to sneak back in. Right? They're trying to invade your property, and you've revoked the right to be on your property by kicking them out with exile. They can go do what they will, but they can't be anywhere in your sight. Better not get caught here.
I would be okay with like, say, exile for
you have to plan where they go. That's their problem.
for major crimes, non-murder, right? I mean, but yeah, I mean, even murder in prison is still a crime. Murder on an island in exile is still going to be another crime to build up. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into arguing about what's justice, what is injustice, what's righteous justice. What's the difference?
Can we come up with a better name for it?
I think righteous is just moral.
You're welcome to come up with a better name for it. I don't know, but nobody has. I think
justice
because
is an insult to precision of word definition.
So are most emotions, by the way. So it's freaking hard to put into words an emotional.
I'd rather
that's
live
what
by
that
reason,
is what
I guess, than be satisfied.
I don't know that. What I do know is that justice does not exist right now, at least in this country. Probably on most places on Earth, that you mostly, I would say, above normal have no actual justice. The people that are doing bad things are not punished, and many people who aren't doing bad things are punished,
right.
and
that's kind of an aesthetic thing, right? There's probably people out there who violently disagree with you who are in charge right now, right? They think that it is. Gary Gensler thinks that the way that it is just, right?
Yeah, he'll tell you that, but he'll also be lying.
And
He
he'll
knows.
say it with kind of some fire. You see, he's a believer in his eyes, man. He's dangerous because he really thinks we're a problem.
You have to admit it, because we are at a point
I
now
think
when justice happens.
He's
where it
carrying the
works,
righteous fire
we're
and he's
actually
aiming it at
surprised.
us, and he thinks he's doing good.
We're actually surprised when things work the way they're supposed to.
Yes.
I don't
We
think
are-
you can build righteous fire
can't-
systems
you can't
without
say things are
ultimately
not messed
resulting
up,
in more injustice.
That's
than
the
justice.
norm.
Yeah. What'd you say, Sean?
I said you can't argue that things aren't messed up if that's the norm. Like, oh, the system worked. Whoa. That's obviously things are screwed.
It does
and
very
Crypto Mojo
efficiently.
made a point, Greg. It's difficult to exile a child. That's a death sentence.
We
You're
can
literally killing
have a jury system for deciding whether or not in your place, right where you live, where you've signed the social contract and have a right to leave, whether or not you want to do it that way. And if you see somebody doing that, you don't like it, you'd be like, hey, who else is grossed out? Let's go find a place and start our own society. New social contract, same system. We'll power up the blockchain that's built into it. And we'll set our society up over here and leave them to do their thing over here, and we'll not think about them again, right? You can self-exile in the system too. So if the society becomes unjust, start a new one over there, and they won't stop you.
We need space travel and colonization to make any of that.
The question is, here's the biggest issue, and here's how it relates to blockchain, right? Instead of just talking, this isn't a political show, really. That the biggest issue is that people don't really know what the hell's going on. They don't know who's in power. All they see is injustice, injustice, injustice. Oh, surprise! That's actually that's something just. And I will tell you, typically the just things you see are intentionally shown to you to show, see, not everything's broken. You can still go back to watching your football. You can go back to watching your Netflix. You can go back to eating your McDonald's. Everything's cool. Right. Just do your job.
And we all live sort of quietly with cognitive dissonance, though, right?
Greg, I have to be able to get through the whole point that.
Go ahead, please. I'm sorry. I did not mean to shut off your point. Go ahead. I just got to make mine.
The thing that blockchain can offer is some transparency and the ability to see what actually is happening and what position, what role do I have in deciding an outcome? That if I, look, I went and voted in November, but it seems like the people I voted for aren't really doing the things that represent me. They don't represent the people in my neighborhood. They don't represent my family members. Nothing seems to have an effect. Blockchain could offer the ability to show, look, you can see where your vote was, whether it's in the vote itself or whether it is even if you wanted to go into a closer to a pure democracy, or which could still be representative, it could still act as a republic, that it would at least offer transparency, and that's the biggest threat, frankly, that blockchain has for the world as it is, that it could change the way that they control stuff, because right now it's obvious that they control all of these things. They put laws upon laws upon laws that are all bullshit because they don't repeal the old laws. They leave the old laws, add in new. Why? Because they want that stratification. They want to be able to, with their own knowledge and money,
out of control once they start it. That's what I think is the problem with it, right?
What's that?
Self-licking ice cream cone is kind of like a dark joke when you think about it this way, because for-profit policing and for-profit prisons, like what's the thing that they do? Civil asset forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture is basically just a way to start up a self-feeding economy in the dispensing of injustice, right? And so the system that was designed to stop injustice behavior ends up creating machines that churn through people, causing the exact opposite.
Imagine that. That's what we're talking about.
The law,
that's what we're
especially
talking about. And
when
the
it comes
people
to
who
criminal
run
law,
those systems, Greg, are going to be hanging from lampposts.
Centrally whether or not the universe is
and that's the thing. Right now, we are headed. You ask anybody, you go out somebody on the street, is this a just world? You ask anybody on the street, everybody knows it's an unjust world. Whether they can
unless,
define,
of course, you hold the sword,
whether
and
they
you
can,
just
and whether
some. That's justice to
whether,
you, right?
Whether they can define how it's unjust and whether or not you might call them someone just seeking vengeance. You just want vengeance against those politicians. You should just relax.
Now there's politicians, dude. Those politicians are using justice, right? That's why we still need them. If we didn't need them to execute the punishments that we are exacting for all sorts of things, like
what are you talking about? No, I'm talking about the fact that those people, what you're headed towards, everybody knows that this is an unjust world. Any state in the U.S., the federal government, everybody knows it, and they know it in their freaking heart. And it might be an emotion, and they might just be seeking vengeance.
Just let me make one complete point, Joe.
What you are heading to,
there's a logical. There's an a priori logic to my conclusion here, right? Like an a priori logic.
Greg,
build this from first
let
principles.
Joe make his point, man.
I feel like the point has been remade, and I got it. I guess you keep remaking your point. I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that it works that way.
You don't think people are going to be hanging from light posts in the coming years? Because I have a feeling that's where we're headed.
It is, and we created it. The way to set up a system that doesn't devolve like that is to have one where
fuck you, Sean, for creating that. Fuck you, Lisa, for creating that. I don't know what the hell you guys were thinking for creating this.
I agree that I don't agree with create. I agree with let it happen.
Well, I think the problem is, how do we stop it from growing into something that's bad once we have created it? Once you have a system of laws, how do you stop it from being taken over?
I'm going to tell you, we didn't create shit. I don't care what you guys think. You might feel some guilt, or you might feel some guilt for the Holocaust, Sean. I don't. I wasn't there. Okay, I hadn't shit to do with that. I didn't have shit. I didn't bring slaves over here.
I don't think the state is good at it.
I do not take any responsibility for any of that bullshit that happened. I'm a freaking engineer. I lived my life. I paid my taxes. I did my thing. Right. I voted for some people that turned out to be bad.
Light makes right with the fake moral high ground, though.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything when the Dixie Chicks were being vilified for saying, "Hey, why are we going to do a war?"
What would that matter? Did you run a freaking network? Did you? What the hell does that matter?
I went along.
Okay, you have guilt. You had personal guilt
for things that I didn't do that allowed certain things to happen and become.
How did that allow you? Not saying something about the Dixie Chicks allowed the Iraq War to happen? Is that
allowed
true?
Allowed things to move forward? Yeah.
Okay.
People would have been like, "Hey, man, stop."
There's a lot of people. This is all about the personal responsibility, though, Sean. Everybody's on a different path, a different timeline of waking up.
We should take personal responsibility for.
Yeah, you need to do whatever is right for you and wake up yourself, your family, people, those around you. But you can't say that, like, oh, you are the supreme being. That if you had only done
except when you're the head of the family,
perfectly right, that this world would be in a different
place.
place.
I think that we all, like you said, just have to take personal responsibility and realize that not just push the blame. Oh, it's everyone else. No, we all.
No one's saying it's everyone else.
I'm not saying it's. I'm saying it's not you guys.
There's a lot of different moving points, a lot of different timelines, and we all have to do it together. But it may not be at the same time. Like and I'm not responsible for someone else's shit.
Yeah. And that's the thing. What we're doing right now is talking about this and trying to offer up something that, we need to end the corruption. So, how are we going to do that? We're going to just talk about it for now.
I'm trying to face the cognitive dissonance at everybody because we need to recognize it's uncomfortable.
One at a time, guys. I don't know. You guys decide as adults who should be talking and who shouldn't be, I guess. Either that or I'm going to start muting everybody. Say I'm going to have one person unmuted at a time. And then you guys can just go on your will. And I don't know what else to do. So, okay. So first, Greg, real quick point.
Pithy. Do you see how uncomfortable? Like, you guys are actually a little agitated with me because I brought that up. There's some cognitive dissonance to be had in the logic of justice right now. We haven't figured out how to do it right. And I don't know if we have violence engines that can handle it, right? Like, we create those, we start doing injustice eventually, and society destroys itself, and then we start a new one. Right, it's a cycle that we've created, sort of like the bus cycle of the Fed. The Fed polices the money supply, and the police police the culture war supply.
Yeah, Yeah, we get it, right? So, and I have a couple of ideas for that would improve it. You can't make it perfect. I'm not
I just
asking
have a
for
hard time
perfection.
talking about making patches to it when the whole thing is doing an absurd thing that doesn't match the words we need.
None of us are talking about patches, I don't think. I think that's not the point. Sean, what were you saying?
I was saying when good men do nothing, evil prevails. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Reagan said that. That's what I'm saying. Is that at times in our historic times, I'm not talking about everything, but for historic points, either we didn't do anything or we're watching our Netflix and eating our McDonald's, and we have to take responsibility for that. The reason I think things are so bad, it's not like we weren't here the past 30, 40, 50 years. We were here. We saw it. It wasn't overnight. And we didn't stand up. We didn't revolt. And now we're here. So, and I think you're right, Joe. And Greg, I don't think we can put it back together. I don't think we can fix it. I think it's when things are completely broken.
Right, we broke it when we called it something it was never going to be.
Oh yeah.
We can't try to rebuild it better. We need a new one.
I'll say
with better
ideas.
We all know
it's broken. We all know there are better ways. We don't know if there is I don't think there is a perfect way. But the point is, you don't have. I mean, in the Wild West, when they would hang a horse thief, that was a superior system than this, right?
It was, right? Because justice never really had to be done by the sheriff. It could be done by you, and if you were right.
My grandma told me a story, and I'll tell the story of this real quick.
It was decentralized justice.
When she was a little girl, people were gathering around, and she guys, stop. When she basically was asking her mom, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, go inside. You go inside and you wait for me, right? And so she goes inside and she sneaks around, goes out the back door and hides in some bushes and walks around and sees what they're doing. And this is my grandma. So it wasn't that long ago, but they were hanging a horse thief, right? She described what it was, right? But there's the thing.
Scarier than hanging a horse thief, or than having people hang a horse thief wrongly because they got mad at somebody who was in the wrong situation, and somebody who has to resort to swatting someone if they want to do that to them directly now. What does more damage, right? Like the fact that swatting is a thing you can do for.
I don't know, Greg. I don't know, Greg, but I know that those people actually had morals, and they weren't going to hang somebody who
right. But like they still shoot a lot of people's innocent dogs because we have SWAT.
You're talking about cops today. I'm talking about in the Wild West.
I'm talking about what it evolves into inevitably when you have a system.
The whole community is holding a person accountable.
Violence against a minority.
It's the whole community standing around
doing justice,
saying, "We all know you did it." It's totally different, Greg. It's not.
It's really not.
And I will propose to you.
Please articulate to me the difference, and I'll happily accept it.
No, you won't.
Articulate what?
I will. If you can articulate the difference to me in a thing that isn't just another abstraction or mode of aesthetic judgment.
The people had morals back then. That we didn't have the education system wasn't bent on destroying people's minds when they're kids. The culture system, people weren't watching bullshit all day long.
We thought we could simply plan shit, and every time we tried it, we're wrong, no matter the domain.
But Joe, it was also the community was standing there doing it. There was accountability. It wasn't a system doing it. It wasn't cops and judges. It was
in this story
individuals in that story. It was the community who knew his face, knew who he was. They were looking at each other as well, doing it. It wasn't just this system that it was happening behind the scenes and no one knew what was happening, and in confidentiality and all of that darkness.
And by the way, I don't know that the sheriff wasn't there, and I don't know the details. It was a little kid who then was much older,
telling the story.
I think it's a good story, Joe, because I think it does illustrate what we were talking about before, the difference between vengeance and justice. If that was Billy Joe Johnson Mary Barb's kid from, outside of town. Everyone knew him. He was an all right kid, but he broke the law and he did a hangable offense. Nobody was there like, oh, this is fun. They were like, shit, we're about to kill Billy Joe Johnson.
Mhm.
And
guess what?
we
That's
just
why
ate
Billy
with him
Joe
at the
wouldn't be.
church. But she sent your grandmother away to not look at it. It was like something we have to do and we don't want to do it. That's the difference between justice and revenge. Revenge is like, yeah, come out. She would have been like, come here, honey, we're gonna hang this piece of crap. You know what I mean? That's revenge. Justice is very somber. It's like you don't want to do it, and it's something you have to do.
Yeah. I don't know. And, in the end, we could be talking about civil law instead of criminal law too. And, there are points in both. The blockchain can provide tools. It could also be tyrannical if you applied it the way that our existing tools are applied. They could do a lot of what we would offer without blockchain, but they don't want to, because they want the ability to work through the laws when they want to, and to have poor people or people who are ignorant of these things to be essentially punished. So anyway, let's see if there's another one, because we need to get through these. Another, I am for I am. So much of the justice system is subjective, see, and here is where it can clash with blockchain that is supposed to be immutable. Judges often refer to a law's interpretation. Too often they legislate from the bench, right? See, it's arbitrary. Depends on who they are, who paid them to be there, how'd they be the chosen judge to for your case, right? We as mere mortals, lay people, we don't know how this works. So how can blockchain make the legal system more rigid, or do we not want a rigid system? Each case is different. There are too many variables. This makes it too complex for a smart contract to work in every case. Maybe we want AI judges. No, laugh my ass off. Okay, so who wants to go first? Greg, go first on this, unless you want time.
Oh, no, you guys go first. I'm fine.
I'll go first because this is really apropos. So yes, judges do that. Judges have a buttload of power and not much accountability. That is something that needs to be fixed. So here's a quick story about this. There's a judge here in my town. He's insane. He's a psycho. His name is Wild Bill. His name is actually Bill or William, but he goes by Wild Bill. In our town, if your kids miss so many days of school, the parent is hauled in and charged with a crime, because if they miss more than 10 days in a semester, and they have to go before the judge, and the kids go before the judge for skipping. And I've seen this man literally is schizophrenic. Someone will go up there and he's like, hey, what's going on, blah, blah. And the next person, he's like, I'm going to take your car and I'm going to put you in prison. I mean, just nuts. Just to lay the foundation for what happened. So my son gets in an argument with this guy. He walks out the door, picks up a rock, throws it at my window, breaks my window. And I'm like, what the fuck did you do? I literally watched you walk out the door.
The judge?
No, this kid.
Okay.
So I'm like, you pay for my freaking window. And he gives me the runaround. And then I call his parents, pay for the window. No, my son said he didn't do it. So whatever. So I go, call the cops, say, hey, man, the kid broke my window. I saw it. My son saw it. He did it. So old Wild Bill got to go down there and talk to him. And he said, I'll take this and I'm going to prosecute this kid, but you can't drop the charges. You drop the charges, I'm going to arrest you. He was like for interfering with it was weird, but he was going to arrest you. He's insane, right? He was going to charge me with like interfering with justice or something, but he was going to charge me. I'm like, yeah, okay. So he issues a warrant. This kid is in another town working. He sends the cops to the other town to extradite him immediately and bring him back. His mother comes to me, right? We live in a military town. His mother's German. She comes over, speaking, German English, crying. She's like, you have to drop these charges. We'll pay for the window. We'll fix it. We're sorry. And I'm like, okay. I said, I can't drop charge though, because the judge is going to arrest me. And she's like, he's deporting my son because he's half true. His father was U.S. military, so he had dual citizenship. The judge was putting in paperwork to deport the child. He was like 17, 16.
Well, that's
to
not
deport
really terribly fair. Is it?
No, but he was doing what he wanted. He was kicking him out.
Because the kids can't.
So I'm going to ask you, step back
voluntarily exit.
Step back there real quick. So you have Sean as a party. You have this kid as a party. The kid actually did something wrong. Took him a while to come back and admit it until they were threatened with something, right? Then who's the other party in this? The judge. So of these three people, I think the obvious, here, if I'm let's say I'm a higher judge, I would say, okay, Sean, you drop the charges. The kid, the family's going to pay for that window. They admitted that they broke it. And we're going to hang this other judge for treason because that's obviously not legal, right? It's like the threat to.
Well, what have we done too? Like, where are you going to get another judge? Somebody has to go all the way to law school. Like, it's such a waste of resources.
No, it was legal.
Oh, is it?
He was using the law. He was using the law for craziness, but he was doing literally what Greg said.
It's just the bureaucracy for executing organized violence.
All crimes is exile. So this kid,
it's not that much different from the Fed,
and he was going to get exiled to Germany, out of the United States, and it was a legal thing.
Privatized justice.
Because he had a secondary.
No, was it legal for this judge to threaten you if you dropped the charges?
I don't know. That's the thing, dude. The law is subjective. Was I interfering with justice?
Yeah, it's trash. Yeah,
the
law. There is no
orderly
law.
Due process turned into a meat grinder. It's the problem.
It's all smoke and mirrors with judges and lawyers. That's all it is. It's all smoke and mirrors. I don't think there is an actual. I don't think the law actually exists. You'd have to prove it to me. You'd have to show me that Hunter Biden is going to jail for prison. You'd have to show me that. You'd have to show that. What's his name? Who's the actor who killed the woman and is still. If that were a normal person, he would be in prison already, right?
Yeah,
Joe, this is what I've been trying to say all along, man. The law is supposed to be the god of justice, and if it can't be proven to exist except in the eye of the beholder, and that beholder has the right to make a decision, then what are we doing? But just letting elites rule us and calling it something morally just because
that is what
I feel it's so useful to them. Eventually, that if somebody eventually captures the machine and starts steering it towards their own personal advantage, and here we are, like 100 years later.
I think the law has become like government. It needs to be smaller. It needs to be simplified. 10 Commandments, do whatever you want to look at. Killing, wrong. Stealing, wrong.
Okay. So
having your lawn a little bit high, not your business. The government has gotten so big, and it uses law to increase its power.
Right.
And then we have more laws, we have more arrests, we need more police.
I'm not asking for more laws. I'm asking for in fact, I would make laws automatically expire and that they would have to renew them in front of everyone if they want to keep those laws going. It would just clean up the system and make it more transparent, cleaner, and also to actually have an objective form and an objective form of
how do you deal then with
punishment.
The body of work, Joe, behind Bernays? How do you deal with the fact that manufactured consent has become engineered, digitalized, iteratively improved, AI-powered consent? Like we have our consent manufactured for us so subtle we don't even always catch our own biases that have been programmed into us.
That's a good idea, Joe. There's a lot of towns in Texas, I know.
How does it not appropriate?
Where you're talking about your story, it's a hangable offense to be caught with wire cutters in your pocket because of cattle rustling. So a lot of and horse rustling, a lot of towns passed this law way back in the day that you if you had wire cutters, they had to be exposed. You couldn't hide your wire cutters because that's what they were for. But that's just one of the things that obviously should have went away.
Yep. Yeah, and it would fix a lot of things, and they don't want that because they want a normal person to not have the knowledge necessary to understand how the system works and to be able to, do
Well, and the
anything.
2
that
minutes
they can't
hate is a
afford it.
bonding exercise. It's useful to do collective injustice and call it good. People like
And something
it.
we haven't talked about.
It's annoyingly
There is-
enjoyable, even people who detest it philosophically.
Sorry to interrupt you there. That's the other thing we didn't talk about, the notion that justice also has a secondary effect, maybe that, yes, I was wronged, so I might want vengeance against someone, or I might not feel that, they had to pay a fine. No, they hurt me, right? And I didn't get that fine. The government gets it, right? That's a huge thing. And the secondary effect is the people watching it. So it's like, wait a minute, I only have to pay a fine if I do that. Okay, I'll just, whatever, I'll pay that fine. I'll go kill my enemies. I'll go steal from whoever I want, and I'll pay a fine, or I'll spend a little bit of time in prison. Who cares? When you hang them, it becomes a totally different. There's a totally different effect. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to steal a horse in that town. I'm not going to steal a car in that town. I'm not going to kill someone in that town because they'll actually freaking kill me, right? That has a huge effect. And guess what? That's the reason that the state or the government or whatever regional actually has a care about justice. That they, if you want to keep peace, you want to lower crime, then your punishment had better be visible, effective, stark, and
swift.
Clear. Because, swift. Because
Right.
if it's unclear, it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a senator for a dad, but I have a congressman for a dad. Or my dad was a judge. Maybe I won't be treated the same as those other poor kids, right? It's evil. The whole thing is evil. And maybe we're just in hell, and maybe that's the reason that justice doesn't exist. But whatever.
The Cobra effects are all you can guarantee when you do organized bureaucratic interventions to stop anything.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point, and I made the point about the person that was
DOJ is
on a date with this guy who was really rich, and they were in the park, and she was like, "I really wish we could have the picnic over there, but it was, you're not allowed to go over there; you get fined."
Oh, the grass.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh no, like it just costs $50 to eat over there," because that's the way of thinking. Now, in most states, if you just get in a fight with someone, beat the shit out of them, it's not a felony; it's a fine. So you literally have to. Is it worth like $1,500 for me to beat the shit out of this guy? Am I that pissed off that I'll pay $1,500 to go beat the crap out of him? If it is, it's a simple decision, and then you literally pay the state to harm someone.
Yeah,
and that's
how it works.
A transaction.
I don't know about you guys. I know when I the first time that I got a ticket when I was much younger.
Over and over again.
I got a ticket when I was much younger, and I talked to a friend. He said, "Oh, you need to call, one of us, this mutual friend who's a lawyer." He, and essentially I paid this guy, and it was because I didn't want to show up on my insurance, right? So you pay this guy who pays off somebody else, and then it doesn't, they do whatever they do. And I'm like, and I did this, and it was an experience, and I was like, it felt so wrong to me. It felt so unjust. And I'm like, wait a minute. So 4 years ago, when I wouldn't have had this money to do this, I would have just been screwed, right? It's all wrong. The whole thing, the whole thing's wrong.
So
I don't care.
I'm sorry. This is so interesting. So when back in the day, before the Great Infection, we used to go to Mexico like 3 times a year. My husband likes to go to the same resort every time. He knows all the people there. He's gotten to be friends with them over the years, and he loves to tip really big there, so he's gotten to build these friendships. And so every time we go, they show pictures of their family and they're telling these stories. So I got to pay off and bribe the guy at the city, and look, I built this addition onto my house, and now my daughter and her family live there, and then I moved my mother-in-law in, and this is my son. I sent him to college or school. I can't remember what they call it there, some kind of higher learning school thing, and they're telling these stories, and it sounds like bribery and it sounds corrupt.
Well,
and
Lisa,
I'm like, oh my God, this sounds terrible. And then I'm like sitting here thinking, like, our system is just as corrupt. We just have different names for it.
Right. And I want to ask you this because I know people that live in Mexico and live in other places, and Andrew Tate
It's
talks
just
about
more transparent.
this. Transparent. So is that better or is it worse?
I think it's better.
Way better.
I kind
At
of
least
better.
you know the rules.
yeah.
Yep. If you
And
don't know the
everyone
rules,
can play.
it's an evil system. If you don't know the rules, and you're going to get punished for something that you don't even know is not allowed, right? So we've entered our period of memes and current events. Okay, so what are the current events we need to cover today? What do you guys think?
There was an update while we were talking. Egypt, I think, threw off the USD.
Really? Really?
Egypt officially ditches the US dollar for trade.
Wow. That's interesting. Don't we give them a bunch of money?
I'm sure we give everyone money but us. But
Yeah.
we the people.
Yeah.
Did you see I posted in our chat where Tucker went shopping at a Russian grocery store?
Oh, yes.
And talked about the high standard of living, the low costs, and how amazing the Russian grocery store was.
Yes.
I thought that was quite
Well,
interesting.
he mentioned in particular that there were several items that were not supposed to be available in Russia because of the embargoes and whatever else, right? And that was interesting because it was essentially, I think the commentary was intended to show that the as they always are, embargoes are typically very ineffective, and even when they are effective, they just hurt the normal people. They don't hurt the politicians. So anyway, very interesting.
Yeah.
So the Tucker interview is a big one. I agree. That's something we should cover. We could cover stuff about Craig Wright. There's a couple of things that might be interesting there, right?
The Tucker thing, I think, a bigger deal is the not the interview with Putin, but the fact that he's like, "Oh, I'm a journalist doing journalism," and all the journalists in the world are like clutching their pearls, like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, well, and they that's the other thing too. Like Europe was talking about basically not allowing him to travel in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Like what? It's crazy. There, this meme is for you, Sean.
Also, I mean, when you see the things that like Biden and other people have done, saw Swalwell banging a spy.
Treason.
If you look at that, and they're talking about, can we charge Carlson with treason? And
depends on how much of a majority they can convince.
You see all these people, what they've done. What?
That brought up two more current events. So Ilhan Omar was kicked off the the foreign whatever committee, and the first time in 150 years.
I made that joke, remember?
Yeah, foreign relations. Yeah. Yes. Then the first time in 150 years, they have what's the term? Kick the guy out of Congress. I'm totally blanking.
Homeland Security, Mayorkas?
Yes, Mayorkas.
Was
impeached. Yes, first time in 150 years.
Is it going to be removed? I doubt it'll be removed.
It's not going to be removed.
Yeah.
Let's be a little positive here, boys.
No,
there is a little hope in the world.
No, there's not.
Yes,
because there's a two-party system, and now the decision goes to the other party as to whether they're going to
winning.
Right
now, the spiritual war for people as free things.
That's right.
Like the idea war is shifting back. People are valuing freedom again because they're starting to recognize that they're losing it.
I agree. We are in a better position than we've been in my lifetime for people waking up about how stuff is really working. And
turns out everybody cares about freedom.
It's so hard to actually communicate because everything's censored, right? I mean, you can't freaking. This is a funny meme, by the way. Speaking of Tucker,
when people are trusting Putin more than our own Presidente in America, that says something. When you're seeing the filth and the dirt and the corruption, that's a good thing, because that's how you clean it up. You have to see it first. Sorry, Joe.
Well, years and years ago, my come to Jesus, wake up, red pill moment was I was on social media and the government was talking about Anonymous, this terrorist organization. And they said blah, blah, blah. And Anonymous said, no, we found out that it's blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh my God, I believe a terrorist organization instead of the government. What? That was like, my head exploded. I was like, wow, things have changed. Things have changed for old Sean.
I just can't believe they got rid of Mayorkas for that after all the horrible war crimes he's committed over the 20 or 30 years he's been somebody's lackey in some administration or another.
There's a reason.
Like, he did a lot of really evil stuff during the Iraq War and Afghanistan. Like, I think he was one of the people who pushed for not finding bin Laden because he's a really good way to extend our justification for war beyond its due date.
But didn't get pardoned for that under Obama?
Like, they lagged on that on purpose because they wanted to spend more money on tanks.
Here's a Mayorkas meme. Yeah, I don't know that. Who knows why? Well, they tried to impeach him last week or before, and they finally did, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. I think too that they know that they're in trouble. Like you look at the stuff happening with the Fed and interest rates. Who the hell knows which way they're going to go? On one side, all the banks are going to fail. On the other side, there's going to be hyperinflation, right? So what are they going to choose? Do any of you guys have any ideas there?
I say let's do both.
I think they're going to tank. Ultimately, the commercial banks are just smaller competing banks, right, than the Fed banks. They're going to totally nail their competitors and save the dollar. The dollar's their product. Everybody else are their market competition.
Joe, you made a good point about this. I think this is a time when more people than ever are waking up and seeing things and blah, blah, blah. But it's also a time where you can do less and less about it. You know, there's people that committed vandalism and they've been in Guantanamo for, all this time. It's you can't step out of line. Your livelihood is going to be taken away if you step out of line. There's so much 1984 Big Brother kind of crap going on now that
that's why we need to totally undo VSA.
It's like Australia or Canada. It's like, hey, we're gonna have a revolt. We don't
first we have to convince everybody that KYC is actually harmful, and that anti-money laundering laws are actually creating a Cobra effect that's debanking people while not solving the problem, and it's expensive. Right, like first we have to get over that moral hill, and then we can take out the systems that are causing the problem. That's how I see it. We have to look the compliance industry in the eye and tell them that they're just the result of corruption, and then they're not helping. They're just making it more expensive and harder to see.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. We definitely need tools. But the fact that
you kind of become our sacred, right? Like, and we just beat scapegoats for crossing the line.
I mentioned to Dave before, like, say sometimes, and this happens constantly. This happens daily to me on social media. I would like to like something. I would like to repost something. I'd like to say something. I always have to step back and say, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'll get in trouble for this. So how do I get in trouble? It's an idea. I'm not calling for harm to anyone. I'm not hating on anyone. I'm trying to call out a reality, a conceptual reality that I might have formulated. But if you are, and I think a lot of people ought to think about that. If what I'm saying, when the people in various spectrums of political belief and understanding can recognize what I'm going to say is supported by the powers that be. Well, guess what? If those powers that be are you already recognize them as evil, maybe just think about what you are saying that is, and I'm not saying that it should change your mind, but it's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't even think about that when they think, oh, I'm going to say this. They're not going to get in trouble for it because it is the current dogma. But if you are on the other side, you have to be careful about it, and they wonder why somebody's not debating them. Right. I've seen several people. I've seen libertarians saying stuff on Twitter X recently where it's like, oh, well, here's this, like, why, and they're calling for people to ascend. It's a trap. They're calling for people to say something that's going to get them banned. Right. It's disgusting. And you think about it, it's not a real good way to set up the way that I don't know, the way that we discuss politics, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. Does
that go back to? I'm sorry. Does that go back to the thought of where you're saying, but if something like that happens, then you hold the judge accountable, not the, get the middleman needs to be the person banning the free speech needs to be called out.
You can see when they let out a rapist because of their race, or they let out someone who's killed some little kids because of their race. And I've seen this happen several times. You can look at the thing, and I called this. I don't know if you guys, it disgusted me mostly because I'm thinking this is just a normal person. It was some dude who was doing like Uber Eats or he's doing a delivery of food, right? He had his car. It was in either DC or Maryland. Imagine that, of all places. Two girls that were in their later teens. They were adults. They might have been in their 20s. I don't know. They essentially were stealing his car, but they were having trouble figuring out how to make it go. Right. So they were sitting in there, and he, and he's this, just this Indian dude that was trying to deliver food, and he gets in there. He's trying to get them out. It's his car. Right. They take off, and the camera shows, and they go crazy, and they end up spinning out. They throw him off the car, and he lands. The dude gets killed, but he's there, and their car is on its side in the street, and these guys come out of this restaurant, and they help these girls out of the car, and they didn't know what was going on. Of course, nobody helps this dude who's laying on the ground dying. They don't give a shit. They pull these girls out of the car who just stole this car, and I called it that they're going to let them off. They're obviously going to let them off because it would be almost impossible for them to try them for that, and it's just disgusting. And that's what I see is that's the existing state of and everybody knows it. If you are of the wrong race, whatever that is at any given point in time, you're screwed. If you're a victim. Or if you're a perpetrator, and it's all bad, right? So anyway, and it's throughout everything today. So it's just crazy to me. I don't get it. Anyway, whatever. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'll try to. Okay, what else? The one thing that came up. Tucker spoke about he spoke at some event after his interview
to finally get to hear unfiltered food from Russia that wasn't being interpreted by a bunch of people who you knew worked for the CIA.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no joke. That's why it was.
That was really refreshing news, man.
Yeah. Well, he was on stage in this interview at some event somewhere in the Middle East. I think it was in Saudi Arabia, and they were talking to him about that. And one of the things that stood out that was really interesting is, they asked him, what's your take back? And he said, well, I'm still thinking about some of it, but one of the interesting things was how beautiful Moscow is. And he compares it then to New York, LA, London, Paris, and how those places used to be pretty, right? They used to be a good place to go. And they've, and I know when we've, moved to Seattle, it was a pretty city and it was cool. And there's a lot of neat stuff there. By the time we left, not 7 years later, it was a hellhole, homeless camps everywhere. It just fell apart that fast. Right.
Right. And it was really hard for them to keep up with Washington in that respect, because Washington could print money for everything it didn't have the ability to take from us without causing us to tax revolt.
Right.
You know,
right.
like
And it was
money was
interesting.
actually the reason that Russia fell apart instead of like we did.
Right, but they recovered, and he actually brings that up, that in the Cold War,
Centralized money.
Russia was the place where, and after the Cold War especially, they they didn't have any money, and their cities were horrible, but now they're all great. Anyway, it's and yes, it was leadership is what he was talking about. So
Joe, imagine if we were like other countries, like a European country. America is so big that we don't understand. Imagine if when you lived in that place and you watched it go to shit, but that was your whole country. You couldn't. You just moved to Kansas. You moved somewhere. It was And imagine growing up in France or wherever and watching the country go to shit, and that's your country. You can't go anywhere. It's like you literally would be a different language. It'd be a completely different country. That it's mind blowing. And that's why I think one of the reasons why we've let it get so bad here, because we have so much opportunity to just leave it.
Can I say too? I think that's one of the reasons. And I've said this. I've talked to a Swiss guy who brought that up exactly. Is like, I can't believe that you Americans are allowing the SEC to do this. And there would be riots in Switzerland if they were doing
People
this
don't
here.
know how to stop it anymore.
Well, that's the thing. People know how to stop it. They don't have any understanding of the law. They don't know what the choices are.
I mean,
and
they're having military-grade information weapons to coerce their
country.
compliance being aimed at them.
Yes.
So that
but it's
doesn't
also
help.
a big country. The threshold is massive. When it happens in America, it's going to happen so fast, and it's going to be so violent. It's going to blow everyone's mind in the rest of the world, and it's because it's such a big country. That's because
I would like to give you guys
understand.
a quick crazy ass hypothetical.
Okay.
Proposition: World War III started in the year that it was started by Churchill, the year that he funded the program that they used after they broke Enigma. That was the beginning of World War III, and it's been going on in cyberspace ever since. That's your.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying interesting thought experiment. Isn't it?
That's semantics. I mean, it doesn't. You don't have to call it World War
III has been an information war all along, I guess.
It's obvious. But
like
there have been more than
90s, they treated cryptography as munitions.
I mean, if you talk to any historian too, there were seven or eight world wars before World War I as well. So that's all just naming it. I don't know. It's like
after listening to Putin, it seems like World War II didn't end.
I want to ask you about this meme, you guys, though. Freedom of speech versus
Russian
control, posted by Elon Musk. I saved this. I screenshotted this because immediately below Musk's post was Censored Man's post talking about it's getting ridiculous at this point that God Saad posted something about being somebody posted about him being a member of Mossad, and so he says shut it down, and that account gets banned right away.
Does anybody take the at handle that says Mo God Mossad?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
That would be a fun troll account down.
Something interesting happened this week.
How long will it last?
A Canadian farmer with his 8 kids. He moved from Canada, uprooted everybody, and moved to Russia for opportunity.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I thought that was like you said. It's flipping. Things are flipping, where a lot of these other countries, Western countries, are adopting these failed policies, literally, of these communist countries who are adopting old Western ideology, and it's flipping, man. When people are going to Russia for the opportunity to, like Putin said, one of the heaviestly sanctioned countries in the world, yet it's still a very admirable economic
We learned the
powerhouse.
lesson of the Berlin Wall really well. People will go where they're going to go. You can slow it down and make it more visceral and brutal, but you can't stop it. They're going to go to the place where they're freer. They maybe just are going to be freer than us.
That's sometimes very hard, though. Right?
I mean, who here wouldn't actually prefer to live in a place where the regulators are all mostly in it to take a bribe? and the bribes are small enough because they're parochial. So you just avoid them, and it's you won't pay for their beer money that week. But if you run into them, you pay their beer money, and they leave you alone. That doesn't happen here. We have a very efficient engine of control over those things. You can't bribe them off. The weapons come for you.
You have to bribe the top. You have to bribe the big guy, right? That's
right. You have to bribe with favors of power. They won't even accept money for it. You have to use influence
they accept
to
money
do
for it.
something, and they do it in return.
Yeah.
What about the Russian nuke in the sky, and then that got like covered up by the same time that announcement came out? Then there was like shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs celebration thing, and they were taking people into tunnels underneath the thing, and some people said that was a false flag, and I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Wow, yeah, that's a really big one, actually.
I think false flag.
I think they probably were covering up a nuclear close call. Everybody's had, like, at the beginning of the Ukraine war, Russia turned back on their second strike system, which is the command and control system that makes sure that if we hit them first, their missiles still launch back at us and destroy us. It stops us from hitting the fire button to begin with, is the theory, right? What they don't account on is those automations have bugs, and they sometimes accidentally identify a threat that some people can overreact and hit a button, or they just accidentally fire the button off. Like, there have been so many close calls caught by technicians just in time that we've never heard reported. Because second strike will hit as soon as there's a malfunctioning launch, and first strike will hit as soon as it sees second strike coming. The whole world is more like it was a software bug than it is an intentional act of aggression.
I think it was, from what I understand, it was something that they have some capability that we were supposedly unaware of. I don't know what's true, but I feel like here's the thing: you can't trust anything they say. So who knows?
They changed the algorithm at Cloudflare, so the whole fucking world blew up. Oh fuck!
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do they call that?
More of a dark joke than you know.
What is the what's the system? Jeez, I forget. That Israel has to destroy the world.
Iron Dome.
No. That's the.
That's
that's how they survive the firestorm they set off.
No, it's the one where they've threatened to basically nuke everyone if they are about to lose, right?
Right. This is what I mean earlier. Like, our impulse to justice led to nuclear bombs ultimately. How do we stop that from happening? We can't make them unbuild those, can we?
I don't know. I don't know what to do with justice was that. That was just a win.
I saw this one thing that Superman can put them all inside of a net, take them up to the space, and throw it into the sun. Superman exile the nukes.
And also make sure that we immediately start using that nuclear arms upgrade facility that they use like once or twice a year for fusion power testing, for fusion power all the time. Like, that thing's been showing breakthroughs every year when it gets its like 2 minutes on the nuclear weapons improvement system.
I saw that in the game, and I thought that was crazy.
They're building better bombs all year and giving that thing 8 minutes.
Is that Jack?
No, I was wanting to know why. Yeah, Jack's there, but why is Whoopi Goldberg there with Beyonce?
Dude,
that's all.
I feel like Whoopi Goldberg just might be a very elaborate piece of sort of cinema magic. Like, she's just a really good Muppet, and you can just sort of have Whoopi Goldberg show up kind of the way that like Slash can show up, or Buckethead.
Yeah. One of my kids was.
Hey, we're talking about current event. What about Will Wheaton?
What's that?
What about Will Wheaton?
Oh God, what about Will Wheaton? I don't know anything.
So the Curb Your Enthusiasm guy was on. They were doing a thing on some morning, Good Morning America or something. Elmo's on there doing something, and he runs out there and grabs Elmo and like is choking him. Is like, "Shut up, Elmo," or something. Will Wheaton went crazy and said he was traumatized and triggered because that was Elmo, and that he's technically only 4 years old. So that the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm was attacking a child and abusing a child on TV. And he's like super hurt, and every sci-fi community.
So he has like a stir of echoes
turned against him already. I mean, they don't like him already. I don't like him. I used to feel fine about it, but then he took things personal with me.
I always thought
So,
Muppets were creepy.
I told him, shut up, Wesley, and then that's it. He blocked me on everything. And but everybody went nuts about it, dude. And the things that he said are so insane.
Oh,
he's like,
I've never watched him. I had friends that would pay attention to him. I don't even know what he looks like. I don't even remember if I know how is he famous.
He was on Star Trek. He was the kid.
What?
Kid on Star Trek, yeah.
Good God! See, I'm glad I don't know this person. It was like, I mean, it is a good positive thing to not be up.
Here's
on
what I'm talking about, guys.
Right.
What about the NSA saying before God and everybody that they didn't believe a warrant requirement for invading Americans' data that they lawfully obtained by purchasing it from private data collectors? We shouldn't be protected from that with a warrant requirement. That doesn't serve the interests of the state, says the NSA leader, who's supposed to, actually not contradict the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, well, they're all oath breakers, or they all have to take an oath to protect and defend.
It's just another example. We have to kill democracy to save it. We have to censor to save free speech.
Yeah,
it's just more Orwellian double think.
Yep,
it's starting to
that's
get Irish, I guess. How they're just criminals.
Allowed to happen. Here's allowed to happen. Oath keepers. I didn't know about them. Years, I mean, like a decade ago, my friend told me he was an oath keeper. And I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, it's police, prison guards, first responders that we just, we have to take an oath to defend the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. But we commit to it, that we're actually going to do it. I'm like, that's what an oath is, dumbass. But he told me about it. It's the most American, benign group that there is. But the fact that they are literally just saying, we're really going to take our oath seriously, made them be labeled a terrorist organization in the U.S. And they went after them in the media and crushed them. And no one's pissed about it. I mean, that's something we should have done something about.
Yeah. Well, when people finally realize who was behind 9/11, when they realize who is behind ISIS and all the rest of that, I think there's a chance that some stuff could change, because I think I don't know. I think a lot of people still are not awake to that yet, right? I mean, it's opening up. People are realizing, oh, this is wrong. I can't trust listening to what this dude says, whatever else. But I don't know. There's so much.
I don't think they ever will. I think whenever you talk about stuff like that, it's like a traumatic event where Germans or whoever, when they're involved in it, and we were involved, like I was talking about the Dixie Chicks, we were involved in aspects of that. Even if something didn't look right or didn't sound right, we were like, no, screw that. We're not going to look at that. We're not going to worry about that. I think it takes the next couple generations to actually do something and be awake, because I think that most people don't want to admit it, even if they know it's true.
Too. Sorry,
they would rather live in ignorance.
You say that, but I think it's because it's too easy to. I don't know. I just think right now all of the everything is controlled so heavily. You can't really blame people for being ignorant about some of what's going on in the world, because it's hard. It's you have to want to know what's going on in the world. So I don't know. I just think that it's at some point it's starting. It's accelerating, and there's more info about some of these things that in the 80s or 90s it would have never been out, right? So,
but people in a nutshell are the two bumper stickers where you got your come and take it, and right next to it is support the police.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with having police, right? as long as they're not tasked to do things that most people consider kind of unjust. Right?
Yep.
I agree. And the process cannot be the punishment either. Like getting arrested cannot be an indignity. It has to be, a duty, right? What if we walked in and were treated well as long as we didn't resist?
Then that would be the difference between justice and vengeance.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. A lot of vengeance happens on the way to the process that is the real punishment. You have to be marched in an orange suit while you're late for your job over and over again until they can't help but fire you, right? Like they get you, even if you didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, and I think the scary part to me is they're going to be able to enforce every law with almost perfect clarity if we let them build the system they're trying to build. There's no better way to resent a bad law than to enforce it perfectly. And the bureaucrats are not accountable to us. They won't take them down because they've been designed not to bother them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We go back to the Ron Swanson one.
We'll be serfs, and the system will be so unbreakable we won't be able to sneak away to come fight them.
What are you skipping over?
I'll have to find it. I will have to find it.
Man,
There was
is it not letting you put it up or something?
scratch on there.
No.
Is that on the meme, the line through it? Is that on purpose?
No, we don't see it. It must be your screen.
Okay, it's part of the meme. I'm not getting the joke. Okay, I'm not getting the meme. Sorry.
Actually, I am. I think they're trying to boil us. I think they just do the next thing.
You guys,
they
while
can
we were
to
talking,
provoke
the
outrage, and it's
SEC.
really well calculated.
While we were talking, the SEC approved Trump's what's it called? True Social merger or to go public.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and what's really strange is yesterday I was listening to Bloomberg while I was driving around doing my errands, and these two reporters or personalities, whatever they're called on Bloomberg were talking, and she was like, the guy said, well, so they were talking about the Ukraine war, fake wars and fake countries, in my opinion, but he said, so at this point, wait, what are we waiting on to know if this is real or not? And she said, and the girl said, well, we're waiting to hear from military intelligence. And then he said something like, oh, well, it's a lot different than what's happening in DC. And I was like, what did they just say?
What?
Because, most of the time people are just barely the radio's on, it's just kind of white noise. But they were like saying, like, we're waiting for military intelligence to make an announcement of some kind. And I went back to this little green frog over here, or some of his friends maybe, saying something about you have to trick the people or let them know they've been tricked so that they understand they could be tricked, so that then you can explain to them how they have been tricked for so long.
Yeah.
And that may be coming quicker. And if this True Social is going public with this merger, could that be part of could that be how the announcement comes out? Or could that be part of the people could go over there? I don't know.
Yeah, I found it.
I'm always looking for a trigger.
I want to talk about something that happened to me. Was it last night or night before? It was interesting.
Talk about him.
I saw the meme on Facebook, and it wasn't a meme. It was a science group, and it was about tomatoes. And tomatoes are in the nightshade family.
Yeah.
But they were believed to be poisonous forever.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy in Boston went to this Boston Square, I believe, and the town square, but I think it was Boston. And he set up a table with a bunch of tomatoes, and he was telling people that tomatoes aren't poisonous. They're not poisonous. And he started eating tomatoes. And people were gathering, huge crowds. Everyone's freaking out, waiting for the guy to die. He's just eating tomatoes, man. And then this one act changed everything to where now everyone eats the shit out of tomatoes. But it was because of this one guy. And
There's a family that swims in the ponds around nuclear plants to
Well, I
kind of
saw
try to
this.
do the same thing.
I saw this
Oh,
and I
yeah.
was like,
Yep.
interesting. So I made a post. I shared it and I made a post. I said, well, I could just see this back in, like 17, whatever, 1800, whatever.
Yeah.
I could see this guy sitting there in the crowd just screaming at him, trust the science, and telling the guy that he was a crazy conspiracy theorist. It was something like that. It was more eloquent. But then I was, blah, 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 we're having family night. I go look at my page. It's not there. So I went and I did it again. I was like, I know I did share that. And it wouldn't post. And then I went back and I was going to take the picture and then make my own post. And when I go to save the picture, it disappeared. And the whole post was gone.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, understand how red pilling it was with the Epstein hanging first, and then also Hunter's laptop, when the Twitter was actually blocking direct messages. So it's not just that, we don't want you to post this because there might be Russian intervention. They weren't. They clamped down so hard that the DMs were being blocked, and it was it was pointing to an article by the New York Post of all. It wasn't like some radical right wing conspiracy site or anything else. So a lot of people were kind of woken up to that and were like, wait a minute, so I'm not allowed to see this? It's just crazy. And so the thing that bothers me is the people that say, well, I shouldn't see that. That's what blows my mind, that people are
They
so
can choose not to see it.
used to being slaves that they just
but
want
you
to.
should be the one choosing whether you see it or not.
Problem is, what
Hey,
they really want when they say
like,
that is they want to
let's
choose for
private
you
chat.
not to see it too.
CD and share it. It's a tweet McAfee posted almost 4 years ago.
Okay, 1 second.
And like, if this isn't enough, then nothing is enough for people. So I'm content.
Exactly.
I'm content in here. I have friends. The food is good. All is well. Know that if I hang myself, a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine.
Yep.
I mean, what more can you do?
You see this too. It's on Eternal, so even when they get rid of that, it's good. We still have it.
Okay, so one thing we got to mention before we end current events, guys, is Julian Assange. He's got precious few days left before, for the first time in history, an espionage law where it's a spying against your own country law. It's what's been to punish. Is going to extradite an Australian citizen to the United States for doing what the New York Times does.
Yep.
Look, it's very simple.
They
dude.
don't like the leaks they have.
Get a Chinese spy hooker.
And it's
Send
mostly
her-
the vengeance effort of some people
He
who are
bangs
super
her,
embarrassed
and
by
then all of a
collateral
sudden
murder.
he's a congressman.
Yep.
That's it. Simple.
Yeah.
Pay
It's
attention and
all,
don't
it's
stop
all,
for
it's
the
all
end
a
goal.
freaking show. So, okay. All right. So we have 8 minutes left, less than 8 minutes left. So, Lisa, what's going on this week?
Really fast. Tucker might still be in Russia, so hopefully he interviews Snowden before he leaves. That's all I'm going to say. Next person.
Sean.
Check out me and Lisa's show on Tuesday. And I've been doing streams for gaming. Gambling. Have a new channel called Crypto Camelot, where we do a, and I won't get deleted. Joe was on with us. It was fun. He was confused a lot because we played like weird and goofy games. But also it's weird just the AI of gambling now, the amount of trust you have. But then I thought about it and I was watching.
I tried watching it. I couldn't find the episode with Joe on it.
I
must have been watching the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
It's
all the slot machines in Vegas, they're all like digital now. So it's all, you have to trust the government to police the algorithms,
Now they don't have to know the gear ratios in order to change the profitability of a machine.
It's ridiculous.
Actually, probably saves everybody some trouble.
All right.
It's been a lot
Greg,
of
what's going
money on gear
this
people.
week? What's up this week?
I would like to leave everybody with a hypothetical. Consider this. What if somebody ran, probably under a crowdfunded umbrella promise-like thing, a single-party candidate nationwide in every congressional race with the goal of 1912 sunset, reset the U.S. code and regulatory code and everything to 1912 and go back from there. Repeal all the amendments that came before that too. It came after that too. Just 1912 reset. Let's not make the Fed mistake. Let's not make the income tax mistake. Let's try the last 100 years again from a law standpoint.
So you're talking about going back to gold, erasing all of these.
Just erase it all. Go back to 1912 settings.
The laws that people would agree with.
Back.
Right?
That was a bad iteration.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
That's my proposed solution.
Although
single party candidate, would you vote for that? Someone who is just like, I'm going to pass a bill called 1912 rollback.
Yeah,
that's all I'm doing. End of debate.
Okay. So my first thing is this week. I mean, I would support that in full, and I would also propose immediately after the first law would be to invest nationally in a lot of rope and then to use it. So yeah, then there would be the revenge in me is going to come out, and yes, we're going to go get those people that did this for all those years before any of us were born. You know, I'm
probably going to have too much fun selling cocaine-laced caffeinated beverages.
That's fine. People can be high when they're watching the hangings. I don't care. I want the hangings. So anyway,
they'll be back on the market, man. 1912 is a cool year.
So next up, I guess watch us again next week. I can't remember what the show is next week. Make sure you get in there and go through,
vote on the themes or whatever.
Yeah, not voting yet, but I guess voting to rank
or
them,
suggesting or ranking the themes. Yeah,
bring some. Maybe suggest some crazy themes. Suggest episode where we have to wear something in particular or something. I don't know. And otherwise, just be good to each other. And I don't know. Hopefully I wasn't too rude. I hope you guys all don't hate me. I love you guys all. So it's all good. This is a good show,
man.
Right on.
Are thoughtful and they're complex.
Sometimes they're very simple. Sometimes
beautiful
they're dumb.
Ideas can be wrong, but beautiful ideas are beautiful nonetheless, even when they're wrong.
Yeah, and ideas are
all of your ideas are actually really quite.
And being able to build something is important, and the fact that we're all in this state of hell currently, where you can't really build what you should be able to build, and every time it's so frustrating to me because when I'm talking to someone wanting to build something, I know I have this crazy issue with what's happened to me in the past 5-6 years, where I have to think, okay, it's disgusting that I have to worry about these things because what they're trying to build is not evil. What they're trying to build is good for people. It's good for their customers. It's good for the world. And yet you have this entire set of legalisms that
they have confuses
the power and destroys good things. And that shit needs to go away. I don't care how we do it, and I don't care how long it takes. Before I die on this earth, and they'll probably kill me before we get to do it. But we need to kill that stuff, And I'm not talking about hate, and I'm not talking about killing people. I'm talking about
the fungus.
Dismantle the information weapon system.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, rope futures, super important. People, I don't think people pay enough attention to that. There's not enough rope in this world for what's coming. But anyway, you guys have a good weekend too, right? And let's see here. What do we want to leave with? I have it right now. Ready? See you guys soon.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.